Hey everyone, and welcome to Kotson.
Welcome to Kotson. My name's Dakota.
And I'm Dennis. And today we're going to talk about.
TXT Records.
Today we're going to continue our DNS series talking about text records. And what are text records? And how do we use them? Text records are primarily used for domain verification and email security. Text records are part of our domain name system, or DNS. But unlike A records, CNAME, MX records, text records don't have a direct impact on by how our domain functions. Then we have services like Google Cloud, Namecheap, and Microsoft, just to name a few, that uses text records to verify you are the owner of the domain. So basically, what you see here is a text record, which is a bunch of letters and numbers and stuff. And this is going to be similar to what you might receive or you might be told to paste inside of your registry. So a service provider like Google, Microsoft, Namecheap, GoDaddy, or something will be able to identify you as the owner. The thinking behind this is if you're able to paste this text record into your domain registry, that you are more likely the owner of that domain or should be the owner of that domain. Here's an example of a text record, and as you can tell, Kotson.com is the domain name, and of course we use the @ symbol because it is the root domain. For the record type is text. Of course, there's MX, there's so many, but on the record type you be the text. And as you look at the value, and a value could be anything that the service provider wants you to paste in there, or for something that you need to paste in there. But in this example, I just put I own this domain, I don't spam as the value. And the last thing is what they call TTL, or time to live. In this case, it's set to auto, but you can set it to different times, and times are in seconds in this particular case. Let's talk about the second reason that text records are used for, and that's email security. When an email is sent from your domain to a receiving email server, usually there are three different text mess or records that are sent with it, and two of those are going to be talked about today. But they are the SPF and KDIM and a DMARC record. Now, let's talk about the SPF, or in this case, Sender's Policy Framework, which pretty much tells the receiving email server that this is the domain that this particular email is coming from. Now, if this particular email SPF with the text embedded in it does not match up with the receiving email server with the same SPF text embedded, it usually will kick it back as spam. And another way is Dkim. Dkim is or stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. And what Dkim does is basically sends a digital signature to the receiving email server. And for it not to get kicked back to spam, the digital signature got to match from the domain that you're sending it from to when the receiving server receives it. Okay, everyone, let me kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm in one of my domain names, and as you can tell, I got several text records associated with it. And I'm going to kind of explain to you the records. What we got, as you can see, I got at least 4 different text records, but they're basically doing what we talked about. The first text record is for my SPF. As you recall, that this is pretty standard. The SPF1, and it talks about your MX record, which MX is dealing with our mail records, and then of course it's to the address or the IP address that you got, and then when you get it says usually that's the symbol and all, and then of course it's got a DMARC record, And this is pretty standard for most DMARC records and all that. And then the third thing is showing on the text record right here is the domain key, and then it says it's got a default domain key. And as you can tell, it's a Dkim record here with your hash symbols, and there's a big long code here that would see how long that code is. It's a real huge code that it puts into it. It's a digital signature, and when it sends it to the receiving server, it should match up to where both of them in order to be not spammed. But that is an example of how text records work in our everyday domain system. Is used to help verify ownership and also help the security of your email record. I'm in one of my domains that I'm going to show you how easy it is to verify that I'm the owner of this domain. Of course, what I'm doing is just something silly, but it also shows you that I have access to this domain and I can prove to other servers out there or other services that I am or should be the owner of this domain. As you can tell, I'm in cyberpanel.xyz. I got two records, an A record and a C record. What I'm going to do is add a text record to it. And this is a good tutorial about this too, because this shows you how to add a text record into your domain name under Cloudflare. Of course, if you're with a different company, it should be similar. I'm going to go to click add record, and I'm going to change the type to text record. And for the name, I'm just going to put the @ symbol. And the reason I'm going to put the @ symbol is because I'm going to be using my root name, cyberpanel.xyz. And here it's going to, once I change text record, that will change to some kind of content instead of an IP address, because I wouldn't need to put an IP address in there. So let's go into type and let's go down. You see all the different records you could pick from, and let's get text. And as you can tell, I'm now as a name, and I'm gonna put the @ symbol on it. And as you notice, when I type in @ symbol, it just automatically associated it with cyberpanel.xyz. And then if you read this little saying, it says cyberpanel.xyz has a record with content. Now this is where I need to put the content in, and I'm going to put Dakota. Of course, y'all know he's my son, my world. And I'm going to click save. And what this will do when I go to like what's my DNS server or what's my DNS, .net or or one of these things, it should show up Dakota when I get ready to do a, let me see where we go, what's my DNS.net. Okay, and now I'm going to type in cyberpanel.xyz. I'm going to search for a text record. Search, it may have not propagated it, but I got a feeling it may have, because it usually don't take that long. And I'm going to click search. And as you can tell, majority of them is showing Dakota. This is how a lot of services shows that you are the owner, because they give you a certain a bunch of random numbers and letters. Let me show you one more way of how you could verify text records and stuff through terminal. If you're on Mac, you just go to Spotlight, type in terminal, it'll pop up. I don't know if you're on Windows or whatever you're using, PuTTY or one of their standards. But when you go in, you get to a place, terminal looks like mine. Just type in the domain that you want to use. In my case is cyberpanel.xyz, and hit space and hit text. It don't matter if it's capitalized or not. And then when you, I forgot to put the dig function in. So let's put that dig cyberpanel dot XYZ space text. And when I hit enter, see it returning all this information. Of course, as you see, the first command is dig. You put that in, then you put in the domain you want, and then text, and it will return all this particular stuff. And as you can tell, it turned answer section. And what did it show? It shows it was a text and it returned Dakota. So this is another way that you could verify in a terminal window that you're or a text record and everything. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video.